local news, politics, business, sports, arts, music. Mike and Marty on the beat. Mike and Marty. Mike and Marty.
Morning, Bellows Falls. Good morning, Marty.
Good morning.
Good seeing you. There's summer, early summer, whatever.
Oh, I think we did all of summer in last 2 days.
Right. It's been really warm.
Now we're in fall, back in fall.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Last night was nice.
Oh, it was a nice break.
Yeah.
Not
It was
kidding.
great. This is the feed. It's June 10th.
Thursday.
Or 2021. I'm like, I don't know. Got to get focused here. We usually do this on a Wednesday. We're doing it on Thursday this week. And our guest today is Sara Henry. She's from the Morning Sun Mindfulness Center outside of Alstead, New Hampshire. And she's going to talk to us a little bit about the Mindfulness Center and then some pretty exciting things they're working on this summer. First, Marty has some local events.
Yeah, I'm so thrilled to announce that the Bellows Falls Opera House is reopening.
Yes, thank you.
And so you can actually go back to the Opera House, have your triple ups in the Opera House watching an actual movie. And I think the movie that they're premiering with is Peter Rabbit 2.
Yeah,
So check the local listings. They're opening up. I apologize. I don't know if there's restrictions on seating.
I don't know that either. I just know that they're opening up and they have things going and there's going to be triple ups, but I guess you should check their Facebook page and
would
check
have all that
their-
information.
yeah.
I mean, the movie theater is big enough that I think even with social distancing, they can put quite a few people in there. So please be sure to support them. It's really important. If you want to keep having movies here in town, you got to support the movie theater.
That's true. Anything else?
No, that's pretty much it.
All right. Well, today's guest is Sara Henry, like we said. Sara's joining us from California today. This is our first transcontinental interview that we've ever had. Good morning, Sara. How are you?
Good morning. I'm really good. Thank you. It's a little bit earlier here, and I'm glad that we could make this work across the coast.
Yes. I mean, this is like I said, this is a first for us. We have been zooming in, but mostly it's been done, like from downtown here, not across the coast.
Well, I think that we had someone Zoom from Athens, maybe. So that's that's getting out there.
Yeah, that's true. So, Sara, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then about the Morning Sun Mindfulness Center.
Yeah, thanks. I am from California originally, and that's why I'm here visiting my mom. I've lived in New Hampshire, though, for the past 4 years, and I moved out there specifically to move to Morning Sun. I had met a couple of friends, specifically Aurora, who you met yesterday. I met her in California, and she talked about Morning Sun. I really wanted to come out and see it, and I'm a resident there now. We have an intentional community, and that's built into a retreat center out in Alstead.
Yes, we went there. I went over the weekend. It was really beautiful. We have a clip that we're going to show right now. If we can have Colin roll the clip, and then we'll come back and talk about it. That's really nice.
So, I noticed that on your website, it says Morning Sun Mindfulness Center in the Plum Village tradition, but then on the poster that you sent, it said Morningside Mindfulness Center in the Thich Nhat Hanh tradition. Can you explain a little bit about that tradition?
Yeah.
What that means?
Yeah, I would be happy to. Thich Nhat Hanh is a Vietnamese Zen master and teacher who really started teaching mindfulness and different social practices during the Vietnam War. And when he was exiled, he moved to France for refuge, where he was having all sorts of retreats. And that retreat center that was created, that retreat community, was called Plum Village because they planted lots of plum trees, and those plums, they would have working meditation and sell those plums in jams or dried plums, and that revenue would help create extra building and housing. So people from all over the world started coming, and then that practice started spreading. It's a very simple way of engaging with mindfulness. So we're always coming back to the basics of mindful breathing and mindful walking, mindful eating. I love eating meditation. It's actually my favorite, especially in this tradition, because there's just a way of relating with daily life that isn't as removed as some other styles of meditation and mindfulness. So Thich Nhat Hanh is one of our founding teachers, and many of us have studied with him and practiced with him, or at least looked to him for inspiration, as well as many other teachers.
When I was speaking with Aurora over the weekend, it seemed like there are three what I would call monasteries in the United States, but this at Morning Sun is slightly different, right? And how did that come about? And maybe you could explain that too.
Yeah, thank you. I actually got to live in one of those monasteries for 3 years in San Diego, a little bit outside of San Diego. And those monasteries are inhabited by monastics, so monks and nuns, and also some lay people, which is how I lived there. And Morning Sun is very different in the sense that we're a bunch of lay people. Many people in Morning Sun have families. There's about 15 residents. So the residents range from, I think, 6 years old to their 90s. And we work in the world. We don't make our livelihood as a monk or a nun. We make our livelihood living and working in the local communities. And but the practices are very much the same.
Interesting. And then do the people who are living there, they then run retreats also in addition to practicing themselves?
Exactly. So as you met Aurora, she and her husband are doctors in Keene, and another resident is a teacher in Putney. I've worked at the Monadnock Food Co-op and at Orchard Hill and teaching yoga in Keene. Another resident is a psychotherapist. Some of the residents are connected with Waldorf, and then many of us in the community, even if we have our outside lives, we also give our energy and our time into hosting retreats.
Nice. And you do, on your website, I noticed that you do, every Sunday you do a retreat. So we want to talk to, and that's open to anyone?
Yeah, and that's a great way to get to know what we are up to. And for anyone who's feeling a little unsure, Sundays are all free, open to the public. Anyone can come. It's a few hours, and right now with like COVID protocol, we're mostly outside, and we would only go inside if the rain was really, really bad, and then we would wear masks. But that day is really simple. We have different residents teaching practices, and all you have to do is show up, bring something comfortable to sit on, and we have sitting meditation, walking meditation, a talk or an offering from one of the teachers, and then a space, a sharing circle, where we get to know each other a little bit more and share what's on our hearts.
Nice.
Nice.
So what might be an example of a talk that someone might give?
Oh, that's a good question. There's so many. I've really enjoyed some recent talks on Mother's Day. On Mother's Day, we went into the forest and we were sitting by a little brook, and someone offered a reading from a book by Thich Nhat Hanh, and it was about the innate mother energy that we all have in ourselves, and we all have such a different relationship with that. So it could range from something topical in the world, kind of a collective experience, or it could be focusing on loving kindness for ourselves, self-compassion and forgiveness, how to dwell in the present moment when things are difficult or when things are really wonderful.
Nice.
Yeah, I guess one of the things I find this fascinating, but one of the things I wonder about is do people feel comfortable just joining in? And maybe I'm not a joiner, so it's difficult for me to just to walk into a setting and feel like, I mean, to even make that gesture to do that would be difficult. So how do you find that people do that? Or I guess that's a self-selection in itself.
Yeah, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, that someone's going to almost have a predisposition to wanting to have that. Like you're going to show up there knowing that you're probably going to be at some point needing to join in. So you have to, on some level, be comfortable with it. I think before,
Yeah.
if you're not, I don't think you'd go. Would that be like a correct analogy?
Yeah, it definitely is. It took me a long time. I'm like a social introvert, I would say, and it took me a long time to go to my first retreat because I knew nobody there. And all I had was read a book, and that's very different than meeting people face to face. I think we do end up welcoming a lot of people who come from word of mouth. And I do think that removes some of the fear because we know, oh, if so-and-so went and I trust them, I'll go check it out. And if you come and you've never met anyone, what I really enjoy is that many of the residents are very different. Many of us seem just like a hodgepodge of people from all different cultures who have landed together. And I have found that to be really helpful in folks feeling welcomed. And there's no pressure to talk, can just kind of sit in the background and observe and leave if it doesn't feel great. There's absolutely no pressure for anything like that. And I still, after living there for 4 years, sometimes drop into that space.
Thank you. You answered that beautifully. It's like, how do you dip your toe in the water without taking the plunge, And it's like, those are the things that, thank you very much.
Now, is silence, so on the opposite extreme, is silence part of the retreats that you offer? Is that, I know in some places you can go and that's a big part of retreats, is just being silent, which for me is hard.
For you, it's hard.
Just kidding.
She's not kidding.
You're not kidding.
Yes, that would be hard for you to keep your day job if you liked silence too much. I think that our retreats have a really beautiful blend of silence and connection. So like I said before, if you don't want to talk the entire retreat, there's no expectation to, but we do have guided practices for speaking and listening and sharing, and also just free time where, yeah, for me, that might mean connecting with the person who's sitting next to me when there's space to talk, or that might mean me walking into the forest by myself and sitting by a tree or drinking a cup of tea or coffee. And we have silence built in for the residential retreats that would be like a Thursday to Sunday. There's an intentional silent period from after the last activity until after breakfast. And people find that, especially new practitioners, find that so relieving that they get to be with the stars and the sounds of the crickets and the frogs in the morning. And we're still around each other, but we're existing in this way where there's no pressure to be friendly as we're drinking our morning coffee. We just get to dwell, and the meditations are mostly silent, but they're not as long as other meditation centers because we want to offer a lot of different practices. And then someone might love eating meditation, or they might love sitting meditation, and they get to bring that home with themselves.
So I'm curious about this eating meditation. You knew exactly where I was going.
I thought so.
Tell me a little bit more about that.
So it's a wonderful practice because we eat many times a day, or as much as our body is needing, hopefully. And we cook really wonderful, wonderful, nourishing, delicious, varied foods. And when we have eating meditation together, there's someone who facilitates it. And they invite us to look deeply into our food. So seeing the farmers and the grocer workers, the drivers, the people who cooked it, our parents if they were the ones who bought the food. And when we eat, we just slow it down, which can sound really hard, to chew your food and swallow it. But after a few moments of just getting to eat, we're with other people, so it becomes much, much easier. And you just taste the flavors and you don't have to rush. You're not eating just to get calories in, you're eating to really experience this pleasure and this enjoyment.
That sounds pretty good.
And it's also way better for your digestion.
That's what I've heard. It actually is a good way of.
It is.
I heard losing weight.
It is because I think you pay more attention to your food cues. So you have, so these meditations that you're talking about are all part of some retreats that you have coming up that you're focusing specifically to first responders. So maybe we have the poster on that, which is coming up right now. So maybe we should talk about kind of how that weekend would work.
Yeah, I see that I actually sent you an old version of our flyer, and I want to apologize for that. My mistake. It's actually for frontline workers, educators, and caregivers, which includes first responders. So we chose these categories of people because this is either people with these professions or unpaid positions in their daily life who, when we sat down and thought about themed retreats, because in the past we've offered theme retreats maybe for men or for women or for families with children to come and bring their children, or for teachers, just specifically for anyone working in the education system, administration and teachers. We thought, wow, it's really hard to narrow down to a population of people who we feel are most affected by this past year of the pandemic. And by most affected, I mean carrying a really heavy weight from having to show up into the world and not really getting the opportunity to retreat back and be taken care of, but they're the ones out taking care of people, even if that's remote and online. So we'll spend a lot of time in nature, and it'll be a very simple retreat style because we really want to leave space for people to exhale. There will be many practices guided by us that will focus on relieving and releasing and then receiving energy that will help us fill up our cup and kind of spill into ourselves. And all of those things will be guided. So that's why it's perfect for people who are new, because I remember my first retreat. I was a young adult and I was just finishing caregiving for my grandmother, and I needed somewhere where I could just go and be taken care of for 5 days, just to get a good break from my daily life and to feel totally refreshed.
That sounds, and so you have two of them happening. So the first one is happening July 15th through July 18th. The second one is July 29th through August 1st. How would someone sign up?
They would go to our website, morningsuncommunity.org, and there's a registration page which gives a lot of details about schedule and how to register. And we have scholarships available. We've never turned away anyone for lack of funds. That's really important to us, and it's built into our model. If you have any questions, feel free to email me, and there's a couple of other people who can answer questions too, based on if anyone is nervous or worried about what to expect. We're happy to talk about any of those details.
Okay. My question would be, what about I guess lodging is the right word. People are going to come for the weekend. I know it's a beautiful site, and but there's a variety of things you can do, right? You can camp, or you can, and I'm still fuzzy on those things.
Yeah, it's always changing based on the season. Last year, we finally were able to finish our retreat center well enough where many people can stay inside. And then the pandemic came and we had to close it down, of course. So now that we're reopening, we feel pretty comfortable with where we're at to welcome certain people in to stay inside of the retreat center, which has all the amenities you would need. It has comfy beds, shower, toilet, kitchen, laundry. And then what we've always had is a lot of space for camping. So having more people camp these retreats will be really helpful because then the people who really need to stay indoors can stay indoors. And many people love to come and camp. We have campsites, and some people like to just wander a little bit off the trail and put their tent somewhere a little bit more hidden. And if you camp, actually, oh, I can hear myself echoing. Oh, there we go.
Okay.
You camp, you can still use the amenities inside of the retreat center at any time. And also, some local folks like to just stay at their own home and then commute in the morning and leave at night. It's best to stay the entire day all the way throughout, and I would totally recommend staying overnight if you can. But commuting is also a good option.
Oh, good. I think we have
Down to about 2 minutes.
about 2 minutes left. I want to thank you for coming on, and I wanted to thank Aurora and Michael and the people I met. They were so kind and generous, and it was a lovely place to visit. Is there something else you would like to, any points we missed that we would like to make at this point?
Oh, I don't think so, but what's coming up for me is just how fun our retreats are. There can be this kind of fear around, oh, I'm going to meditate, I'm going to be mindful. And there's nothing outside of ourselves that we have to change. And all we're offering is a space for that to unfold. We have so much fun together. We get to play outside, and we completely kind of reinvent the way that we visit something like washing a dish or pulling a weed or going for a hike. And there's just a lot of laughter, a lot of quiet. It's very self-informed of how people would like to show up. And so I'm really excited because we haven't been open for a while, and I'm really grateful that you guys let me come on and share and connect with you. So hope to see you both here sometime too.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's very interesting. I would encourage. I mean, I know it's tough. Like for you, like if it's not your thing,
Yeah.
like it's really hard to make that step. But I think anyone and everyone can benefit from mindfulness, and it sounds like you have a lovely way of making that happen for people. So I would certainly encourage people to check it out.
Okay. And thank you, Sarah. And I think that's all the time we have today. So that's it for the feed. We'll see you next week, and goodbye.
Bye, community.
Thank you.
Local news, politics, business, sports, arts, music. Mike and Marty on the beat. Mike and Marty. Mike and Marty on the beat. Mike and Marty. Mike and Marty on the beat. Mike and Marty.
Can you still hear us?
Can you hear us?
I can.
Oh.
Okay. Well, we're out. The show's over.
The show's over.
I want